Good morning, everyone. It's Monday, the 28th of March. Thank you very much for joining us. This is our morning devotional time. My name is Julian, and today we're going to continue with our work through the Gospel of Luke, and we're in Luke chapter 8. So I'm going to read a passage and then share some thoughts on it. On the other side of the lake, the crowds welcomed Jesus because they had been waiting for him. Then a man named Jairus, a leader of the local synagogue, came and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come home with him. His only daughter, who was 12 years old, was dying. As Jesus went with him, he was surrounded by the crowds. A woman in the crowd suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding, and she could find no cure. Coming up behind Jesus, she touched the fringe of his robe. Immediately, the bleeding stopped. "Who touched me?" Jesus asked. Everyone denied it, and Peter said, "Master, this whole crowd is pressing against you." But Jesus said, "Someone deliberately touched me, for I felt healing power go out from me." When the woman realized that she could not stay hidden, she began to tremble and fell to her knees before him. The whole crowd heard her explain why she had touched him and that she had been immediately healed. "Daughter," he said to her, "your faith has made you well. Go in peace." While he was still speaking to her, a messenger arrived from the home of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue. He told him, "Your daughter is dead. There's no use troubling the teacher now." But when Jesus heard what had happened, he said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid. Just have faith and she will be healed." When they arrived at the house, Jesus wouldn't let anyone go in with him except Peter, John, James, and the little girl's father and mother. The house was filled with people weeping and wailing, but he said, "Stop the weeping. She isn't dead. She's only asleep." The crowd laughed at him because they all knew she had died. Then Jesus took her up by the hand and said in a loud voice, "My child, get up." And at that moment, life returned, and she immediately stood up. Then Jesus told them to give her something to eat. Her parents were overwhelmed, but Jesus insisted that they not tell anyone what had happened. So we've kind of got two stories squished into one. So because there's two, I'm going to give them a bit of a recap so you're going to have all four of them. So we've got Jairus, who is the leader of the local synagogue, because that's quite an important role, and he's quite an important man locally, I guess, in the whole Jewish community. And when he hears that a traveling rabbi is coming through, he says, "This is my chance to try and get my daughter healed." So it must be quite a difficult thing for him to be head of the local synagogue, but with the daughter that God clearly hasn't healed, or local medicine clearly hasn't healed. So he's going to try asking Jesus. So there's a certain hint of desperation here, because he wants his daughter healed, as any parent would. He'd want the best for his child. And then we hear about this woman who's not named, and she's been bleeding for many years. Now, from our vast knowledge of Leviticus 15, we know that that makes her ceremonially unclean. And so she can't go to synagogue, and she probably can't leave the house. And anyone that she touches is then ceremonially unclean. So everyone she's pushed up against, getting through that crowd to touch Jesus, is at that point ceremonially unclean, as is Jesus himself. This woman is desperately wanting to be healed, and understandably so, because she's kind of an outcast, but within society. So what happens? Jesus pauses, looks to find out who has touched him. And in front of a big crowd, you wouldn't necessarily want to say, "By the way, I've just made half of you ceremonially unclean." But eventually she does. She has the courage to admit what she's done and why she did it. And Jesus immediately says to her, "Daughter." It's not a telling off. It's not like when he sees other people. It's an affectionate term, and he has compassion on her. And then he says, "You're healed." And some of the commentaries on this say it's not just a physical healing, which it clearly is, but a spiritual healing as well. So your faith has made you well. This is fantastic news, which is really good. So there we have it as a summary. The woman has come to Jesus, and he's got time for her, and he's spoken to her, and he's healed her, and he's acknowledged her. But then bad stuff happens. Someone comes from Jairus' house and says, "Oh, the girl's dead." And you could just imagine Jairus' heart at this point. This girl has kept going for all this time, and just at the moment he thought he was getting the rabbi into the house and something great could happen, the rabbi got distracted in the same way that my children are always saying that I get distracted when we're supposed to be leaving church, and so they're going to be late for something. But Jesus says, don't worry. And then they go back to the house, and taking the parents inside brings her back to life. So there we have something else. Jairus has put his status on the line to go and ask this itinerant rabbi to heal his daughter, and it works, which is pretty fantastic. So we've got two stories there mixed in with each other, but at the same time there's something quite powerful going on in that in both cases Jesus has time for the people that come to him. It's not a either or. It's not, hang on, I need to pop to Jairus' house and then I can come back to you. It's as things crop up, he deals with them. God has the capacity to deal with everything that we bring him. And that's something we need to remember when times are hard. There's a lot going on in the world at the moment. There's a lot going on in the world which we don't particularly like, but we can bring it all to Jesus. We can bring it all to God through prayer, and we can say, we can't do anything about this. We acknowledge that you're God. Please, can you do something about it? The other important thing I noticed is that with regards to the woman, Jesus overcame the law. He didn't say, you've touched me now we're all unclean, now we've all got to go away for 7 days or 1 day or however long it is, go through all the rites and sort ourselves out. He deals with it there and then, and his love for the woman is much greater than what the law would have said by way of being unclean. And that's a really important thing, is how we have compassion on other people and how we share Jesus' love to those around us. He also overcomes the fear. So it must have been quite a big step for Jairus to go to Jesus and ask for help as the local leader of the community. And it must have been quite a big thing for this woman to have gone into a crowd to push up against all these people to get to Jesus, and then wanting to be healed and hoping against hope that it's actually going to happen, because if not, she's going to have to sneak out again. And in both cases, Jesus deals with them in a loving way. He does what they need, he heals them, and he restores them as well to himself. And that's something really important. So in summary, we've got a God who can do physical healing, who can do spiritual healing, and he loves us all independently and is able to do big stuff that we might not expect. And on that, thank you very much. I'm going to stop.